Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Truth Table. My name is Paul Everton. This is episode 72. It's April 9th, 2025, just a few weeks before the election. And tonight I have a candidate, Walter Hofman, who's uh, in the riding Milton East and Halton Hills South. We're going to talk to him about what compelled him to get into politics and why he chose the People's Party of Canada right after this. And if by chance you live in the Milton East and the Halton Hills South riding, please share this with anyone that you know in that riding, or if you're in this riding, share it with your friends, and so the people in these ridings in this riding, can get to know who they're voting for. So I'd like to welcome my guest, Walter Hofman, to the show. Thank you for coming, Walter.
Thank you, Paul. This is really exciting. I've been looking forward to this and really appreciate you inviting me.
It's great. So what inspired you to get into politics? What was that pivotal thing that inspired you and compelled you to get involved?
Oh, it was quite a build-up. There's a real story to how I met Max Bernier and how I became familiar with this platform and the things that he stood for and represented. And a friend and I, we had been following Max. He was much closer to that than I was, but he invited me to go out to Manitoba a couple of years back when Max was running for that by-election in Winkler. And so we drove out. Took us a couple of days, and we went up to Manitoba, and we helped Max canvass for an entire month out in Manitoba, just knocking on doors. And it was at that time that I met Max pretty much on a daily basis. Really got to know him, respect him, get familiar with his platform. I was just so impressed. This guy is just so genuine and just true blue. Really cared about Canada. Really cares about Canadians. And he won my heart. He won my heart, and so now here I am. There's more to that story, and I hope somehow it comes out tonight. But yeah, that's the bottom line.
So, when you met Max, was he still in the Conservative Party, or had he already started the PPC?
He'd already started the PPC. I think it was a couple of years ago that he ran out in Winkler, Manitoba for that by-election to try and gain a seat. He never won that, but yeah, it would have been, I guess, 4 years before that he actually left the Conservative Party and started the PPC.
Well, that's the basic talking points of the opposition. Oh, he doesn't have a seat. He's not going to win. I mean, that's the same as story as the Green Party, and they were going forever, and actually they're in decline, and Max is actually going upwards. So I think what happened the last 5 years, I think, might have inspired people to look elsewhere. I think a lot of people are realizing the conservatives aren't conservatives, the liberals aren't liberals, but they have an alliance with outside, out country institutions that have nothing to do with Canada, like the carbon tax. So, what do you think about the platform of the People's Party that would benefit Milton and your riding in Halton Hills and Milton? What do you think they need to know that might inspire them to take a chance this time?
You know, I think a lot of people are under the impression, and rightfully so, that politicians go around politicking and presenting their platform and saying, well, they're running for office, I'll do this for you, I'll do that for you. And then when they get into office, somehow the platform of the party takes over, the priorities of the party take over their agenda. And what began as great promises and hopes of finally having someone in Ottawa who can be our voice becomes like a top-down kind of government where, you know what, we like the WEF, so here it comes, like it or not. We like the United Nations and what they're doing, and so and the WHO and all these platforms from people that are outside of Canada that aren't even elected. And even the Liberals, you get somebody like Carney. I mean, he was living in America. He brings his company down to America. And then he comes up to Canada. And one of the first things he says is, you know, our relationship to America is not going to be like it used to be. And I'm thinking, says who? Said who? Says the Liberal Party, says Mike Carney. And where do the people fit into this picture? So I think that, number one, Miltonians and Georgian, I don't even know what you call them, Georgetonians, I guess. That's Halton Hills South is Georgetown. So I almost feel like I'm running in two ridings here. I'm not, but yeah, they're separated about 20, 25 minutes, and they're very separate communities. So I have a team in both communities running, but both of them need to realize that that when they vote for me, when they vote for PPC, they're going to have somebody that represents them. They're going to have a voice in Ottawa that is going to be from the bottom up and not from the top down.
Right. And you have 4 pillars. Freedom, which everyone should really focus on how important that word is at this point. And Carney was the one that was pushing the freezing of bank accounts. Anyone dare support the trucking convoy. And then we have responsibility, which means, getting rid of the deficits, responsible trade, responsible managing of the budget. Then the third pillar is fairness, being fair, fair with the laws, fair with the people, and respect. Probably the most important thing is living by your word. People haven't seen that. That's why the majority of voters that don't vote could win the election, because there's so many of them that just have lost their faith. And I don't think we have time anymore. I don't think we have time left. They've already told us their 2030 agenda, you'll own nothing. So this is the election right now for Canada. And we could lose everything if it, do you think mail-in ballots are going to be a problem, or could be a problem with cheating? Do you think that's quite possible? I do, but I want to know what you think.
It seems to have happened in the past. In the last 2 elections that I've seen, they've covered over the voting machines here in Burlington area. And I asked him once, I said, why do you have these cardboard covers over the voting machines? What's underneath there? Can I take this off? No, you got to leave it on. And I took it off anyway. And there it was, Dominion voting machines. So, even they're concerned about public awareness of what is going on with these machines. And yeah, what you were referring to earlier, Paul, I get so passionate about this. I was there in Ottawa. And my friends were telling me, like, for 2.5 weeks, they were calling me almost daily. Walter, you got to come here. This is amazing what's going on here in Ottawa. And the love and the joy and the celebration that's going on there. I mean, okay, it was a convoy to talk with Trudeau, and it was never meant to be what it turned into. But for a while there, it turned out to be a real celebration of Canada and Canadians. And then the third weekend came, and the martial law, and I was there when that happened. I was expecting anything but that. I saw snipers on top of the buildings. I thought, what's going on? Snipers? People here are caring about each other, and they're celebrating. And and they're cleaning up the streets and feeding the poor, and instead they've got snipers on the roof, and they've got men in green with no name tags and no labels on them. And I'm thinking, what is that? And then they started advancing on us, and then the horses came out, and the whole thing was such a bizarre scene, Paul. You had to be there to believe it. You know, the coverage doesn't even do it justice. It went from hero to zero in 1 weekend, and of course the whole thing started and could have been avoided if this hadn't happened. But you call people that drive all the way across the country, costing them thousands of dollars, and such an enthusiastic response by Canadians in every province. You label them as a fringe majority with unacceptable views. What does that tell you about our politicians? Completely unacceptable. And now I'm thinking, the Liberals are a fringe minority with unacceptable views. Sorry, but that's how I feel. But
Yeah,
they should have been heard. They had a right to be heard. Because why? Because they're Canadians. And whatever their grievance was, doesn't matter if Trudeau or anybody else cared or agreed with them or not. They're entitled to be heard, especially when they drive all the way across Canada after weeks of boy, oh boy, what a time it was. So now here we are where we are. Is anybody listening now? Well, it's not very apparent that they are. Max is. That's why I love him so much.
Yeah, he's been on the show a few times now, and he answered every question. He didn't, and I asked a few, like about the spraying in the skies, and he was quite transparent when he answered me about it. And he said there was an agreement, a military operation, a Northcom, I think it's called, with the, and I think this is what Trump is talking about, the $2 billion deficit to protect us. I say, if that's how they're protecting us, I would like to opt out of that financial tyrannical, because I've tested the rainwater, so I know what it is like. It reads like a vaccine, like a prescription with lithium, 500 parts per million of lithium. 600 is a dose for psychotic people, bipolar, schizophrenics. That's what they give them, lithium. So I think this could be part of their 2030. You'll be happy. So they're trying to they are medicating Canadians, and so that's just one side, one thing that they're doing. What they're doing to our food supply. The PPC will address that, won't they? If they get power, and I hope you do. I hope you get your seat, and I hope we have a majority, because I think that's the only way it's going to happen. The only way we can save our country. But you realize, if we do get a majority government, all the left lunatics are going to start burning buildings down. You know how they do it. So we really do have an infiltrated country, infiltrated political establishment. They all 338 voted to let children, mutilate their bodies based on how they feel, without parental consent. So they that's all of them: liberals, conservatives, NDP, Green, Bloc. They all voted for this. So they are all unfit, and they're all unfit to govern. So we've got a big problem here, because they're playing 5 flavors. They're playing the Marxist 5 flavor flags.
Yes.
Their flag, the pride flag, is based on conquering Canada. It's not based on anything else. Flags are meant to show that you've taken over. That's why flags are planted, right? It's our land now. So I think that's a part of the whole, and they've got our schools. They've got the kids. Jordan Peterson approved that when he showed what the graduates were behaving like, demanding pronouns being used that don't fit their actual appearance. And so Jordan was the first step of showing that they've already they've got all of them. They're graduating now. All these liberals are graduating, and they've all been programmed and weaponized against
Mhm.
parents, family. Respect has been taken out of the equation, and they've ruined the future of these children because they're brainwashed and they don't even know it. They feel empowered, because what teenage boy wouldn't love to be able to just go into the girls' washrooms? Not all of them, but some of them, right? So they would be totally willing to put a dress on and use to get access. So they've endangered our girls, our daughters, by doing this, and we're living in really dangerous, I think, even biblical times, and I think we have an opportunity with you. And so I have only praise for anyone who's standing up against, because you're standing up against an army right now.
Yeah.
All the other parties are weaponized against any. Look at the libertarians. You would think all the truckers and all these people that want peace, we would have a majority libertarian government, but they have been, since the media is involved and the polls are involved, they are zero. They get zero attention. Freedom gets zero attention, and thank God for Max. He found a way to get past that, and media is still ignoring him, and the debates are doing everything they can to exclude him.
That's right.
But that's why we're here today. That's what we're here now. People need to hear about the platform. They need to meet you. They need to see your face, know your face, and that you're there. You're there for them. If, like, for example, if you're writing preferred something, let's say they like the cartel or the dairy cartel, and even though the platform is quite against it, Max, wants to clean up the dairy and the mafia. Basically, they run it like a mafia with all kinds of ridiculous tariffs on the United States. But if your constituents want this, even though it's not good for them, you would vote on behalf of your constituents, your voters, wouldn't you?
You have to. And when you talk about if your constituents want this, we do have a real responsibility to inform them before they decide what they want. Now, your earlier reference to parents being prevented from counseling their children, for heaven's sakes, not their adult children, their school-age children, from transitioning because of some sort of sexual dysphoria that they're going through, is just such an illustration of people, being prevented from exercising what has been a traditional Canadian privilege and right all these years. It's a God-given right, really, that these are my children. I should be able to educate them. I should be able to, and when they're talking to them about sexual education, when they should be learning how to read and write and do arithmetic and having fun with each other, and instead they're being asked, well, are you sure you're in the right body? Are you sure God didn't make a mistake here? I mean, that's ridiculous. And then what impresses me most is that in doing my door-to-door knocking, both for my signatures and for asking people to vote PPC now, they say, oh no, I'm voting Conservative, and you're splitting the vote. And then you only have to ask them one question to really disclose what is going on in Canada. Ask them, do you know what Bill C-4 is? Do you know what that entails? And they don't know. Well, I don't know that, but I'm looking to the future, not the past. And I'm thinking they haven't a clue what Bill C-4 is about. Imprisoning moms and dads and pastors and counselors, for encouraging their children to reconsider what they might want to do to transition to another, and these puberty blockers, and to have their genitalia disfigured and removed, so it's against the law for us to exercise corporal punishment as parents, but it's okay for the school to remove their private portions so that they can change sex. What kind of a distorted, immoral government is that? And if people knew about it, they wouldn't vote conservative. But they say, well, Walter, you're splitting the vote. I said, who's splitting the vote is the conservatives, because if it wasn't for the conservatives moving so far to the left, there would be no PPC party, Paul. I believe that. If they had not gone so far to the left. And so I say, okay, we're splitting the vote. You know what's vote we're splitting, Paul? We're splitting the left from the far left. That's what we're splitting. And you're telling me that people are no longer entitled to vote for a party that's on the right? You want to remove everything from the right? Well, then let's tell the conservatives, let's tell the NDP, let's tell them to stop running too. And that way we'll just have one government. And you know what? Then we can invite China over here and ask them to help us run parliament, because that's where we're headed. It's ridiculous to say you're splitting the vote. We're not splitting the vote. We're giving you an option that does not exist right now because the conservatives has moved to the left. So that's my take on splitting the vote.
Yeah, and we have Chinese police stations, who so the Chinese party can, deal with their citizens on Canadian soil, and they crack down on them. But yeah, now they're all trying to pretend they're patriot, because Trump is actually, he might even be helping us, I think. But this elbows up campaign that all these guys, that suddenly they all care about Canada and Canadian values. I don't believe that. I don't believe they care. They care about power. If they cared about people, lives would have improved. We would be richer. Inventions that could have created renaissance, like water-powered cars in the 50s. They wouldn't allow it. They end up killing the guy. Now there's an African guy who created an electric car that never needs to be charged and can charge your house. So it would just take people right off the electrical grid. And they tried to kill him 2 times already. His car is $14,000 US. $14,000 for a self-powered car that can charge your house. Can you imagine? See, that's a renaissance. That's a potential renaissance. Get everyone off the electricity grid, supplying their own power with their car. It costs $14,000, not $100,000.
Amazing. And if they did something like that, it would put money into our pocket. Our young people would get better educational opportunities, because that's now affordable. Housing would be cheaper. Food would be, even if the price of food and gas goes up, at least we'd be able to afford it. But instead, it's such a consistent pattern. Just take more money, take more. Paul, here's the thing. I have worked all my life. And I've worked hard, Paul. I've had a job for 25 years where I start 6 o'clock in the morning and I punch out 6 o'clock at night. That's a 12-hour day. I did that for 25 years, Paul. And finally, I retired. And you know what? All I wanted, I enjoyed my job. And to be honest with you, I miss it. There's times when I wouldn't mind going back. But then all of this comes up, and our Canada and our government is just being turned upside down. And the traditional values and the way that I grew up and the priorities and the culture that we had back then, it's all changed. And I don't see that it's giving us a better country. I don't see that it's giving us a people who are more moral or better contributing citizens. They all want, okay, what's the government going to do for us next? And look at the election now. Like, oh, well, we'll cut this and we'll cut that and we'll give you this and we'll give you that. And all of a sudden the price of gas goes down to $1.22. Paul, it's all so phony. Folks, you can't fall for this stuff. This is going to last for another 2 or 3 weeks, and then everything's going to go right back up as soon as they're back in power, and they're going to get away from our agenda again and putting a buck in our pocket, and they're going to go right back to higher taxes, and let's support the climate control, and let's support the Ukrainian war, and more money out of the country, less in your pocket. And even this whole housing plan, I was shocked the other day to discover that this whole housing plan that Mark Carney is presenting, I think he said that this will be the greatest housing initiative that we've seen since World War II. Do you realize that these are all going to be rental units? Have you heard that, Paul? They're all going to be rental units. They're not going to be homes. They're not going to be places for sale. They're going to be apartments, and whatever they look like, you're going to wind up being rent. And it's consistent with what they said for the 2030 campaign, that you're going to own nothing. And it's true. You're going to, if Mark Carney gets elected, we're all going to wind up in rental units. And guess what? I bet you Brookfield Assets is going to look after us just fine, and we're going to own nothing and not be happy. You know why we're not going to own anything? Because Brookfield is going to own it all, and the elite of our country is going to own it all, and everything is going digital, so that if you step a little bit out of line, they'll shut you down. They'll shut your car off. They'll turn your heat off. You got smart electrical units outside of our house now. Everything is going digital, even your license plate. And you know what? You wait and see. These 15-minute cities, my gosh, Paul, you got me going, buddy. I don't want to get ahead of myself. Go ahead, do some talking.
It's okay. It's your time now.
These 15-minute cities, everybody thinks, oh, won't that be great? You know what? Before you know it, you'll be living in your rental unit. You won't own a car anymore. Oh, great. I can eliminate that expense. Yeah. You know what? If you don't have a car, you can't go anywhere. And if you do go somewhere, you better have enough social credits for being a good boy and agreeing with the system that that they will let you outside. Somebody pointed out, have you noticed that the first thing that is developed in these 15-minute communities is cameras everywhere on every pole? They're going to watch what you're doing. Folks, we got to wake up to this. This is not rocket science. There's surveillance everywhere. And you step out of line. Yeah, they don't want you going anywhere. Just stay in your own building and be quiet. And don't associate with anybody. Don't go anywhere. Just, we'll look after you. We'll give you universal basic income, and you don't have to worry about anything anymore. And this is the communist platform. It's the beginning of communism, this whole socialist thing, where the state is everything. We depend on the state for our morality, for our income, for our transportation, for the fundamentals of life. Mom and dad, well, yeah, they're there in the background somewhere. Education, freedoms of association, freedom of movement, freedom of speech. Well, yeah, that's not really all that important right now. All you need to worry about is that we'll take care of you and everything will be okay. No, that's not living a life. That's not the Canadian way. And Max is saying, let's cut back on government interference. Let's cut back on our taxes. Let's let people live their lives. This is how I started off, Paul. All I wanted to do all my life is just pay my bills and keep my family happy and put a roof over their head. What's wrong with that? I've never interfered. I've never been in jail. I've never been accused of anything, because I just live my life. I do my job. Leave me alone and let me enjoy my country and do my volunteer work and help those around me and visit people in the hospital. I've done that all my life. I spent the first 25 years pastoring a church and doing all the things I love most. And then I got into driving, and I enjoyed that. I was meeting new people every day. It was so much fun. And now I'm enjoying this too. I'm knocking on doors, meeting all these people. Now and again, you'll hit a liberal or a conservative that say, I know an NDP. I don't want anything to do with the PPC. Max is crazy. Yeah, you know what? They're saying Trump is crazy too. And he's going to turn that country upside down. He's going to make America great again. We are going to make Canada again. I can't wait.
Yeah, we didn't lock our doors when I was a kid. No, people didn't lock their car. They didn't lock their homes at all.
No.
I don't even think we had locks on the door. We just need them. I knew all my neighbors. I could go to any of my neighbors at any point in time and say hello. They would give me a drink, or that is just the way it was when I was a kid. There was a cherry tree on the street, on the like between the sidewalk and the street. There was a
Yeah.
cherry tree. I climbed it. The cherries were delicious, dark red, and it was heaven for me. I was just a boy, but right here in Niagara Falls, there was a cherry tree, and we should do that. We should have a cherry tree, apple tree, pear tree, plum tree, all up the streets, everywhere. So
Kids
no
should be
one would
allowed to
ever
play hockey on the streets again, Paul. My goodness.
hockey, snow. What do you call it? Sledding, downhill sledding at Fireman's Park here. Yeah, they made it in Hamilton. They made it illegal to use a sled. I mean, they're just sucking the joy out of life.
Yeah.
And I've seen it over our lives. This has been incremental. They've been whittling away. They would even create and fabricate lies so they can push an agenda. They'll put a fake bomb on someone's shoe so they can, sexually harass you every time you fly on an airplane. So they, and invasive, like looking through your body, like seeing through your clothes with the scanners they have in airports. Absolutely obscene. And they are indoctrinating the children. We have a generation, of children that are going to be messed up. It's going to take, decades to undo this Marxist programming. We're talking brown shirts of Hitler. They've weaponized the children. They started with the women, with feminism. They weaponized the women. And the man always loses in a divorce court. He always loses, and he pays, and he barely survives. If he suffers a divorce, they're going to make him a poor man. They're going to take his house, give it to the wife and her boyfriend. But and the last stage was going after the women. Now they're going after them. They're letting men go, the worst of the worst, go into the bathrooms, and they can't do anything about it.
No.
Even if his daughter is screaming in the bathroom because there's a man in there, a father can't go in there and stop the guy without getting arrested. So the family loses the father. I mean, it's an absolute weaponized system, and it's so unnatural. Just like our food is unnatural. Would you support a moratorium on investigating all the food that we're being fed, the cereals and all the poison that's in them?
No kidding. And the fluoride that's in there, the vaccines that children get. When I was a kid, I remember getting one vaccine. I don't know how many different vaccines were wrapped up in that, but now they've got 160 vaccines for kids before they get out of school. What is that? And look at autism. It's at an all-time high. And food, absolutely, Paul. You're nailing it. Food is all part of the program, and the stuff that's in there. I have this program now called Yuka on my cell phone, and you take a picture of the barcode, and it'll give you a score of out of 100, whether this is any good or not. I can't hardly buy anything anymore. If I keep using that program, I'll starve to death, because this one is 20% out of 100, no good, bad. This one is like 15%. This one is 28%. I'm thinking, oh, what is this? So I don't know. Some days I'm sorry I even have the app, but YUKA, and it's just a simple little app, and everybody, it gives you all the ingredients. And I was listening to somebody the other day. They said, if this product that you're buying and thinking of putting into your body contains ingredients that you cannot pronounce and you cannot say, don't buy it.
Or if it's like a number and a color, like red 40 and yellow 80.
This is serious stuff. Serious stuff. And I feel bad because, everybody's talking now about getting into survivalist mode where you buy your own property. Paul, how many people can afford to even sell their house and go out and buy 2 or 3 acres with a river on it and look after themselves? How many people can afford to do that? 1 in 500, 1 in 1,000, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So what is that? It sounds like a noble move, and then you got people isolating more and more. You've got the whole home education, but that shouldn't be an option. That shouldn't. We should be marching to the school boards, firing the school boards, firing the teachers, and saying,
Mm-hmm.
"You teach my kid something that is meaningful and appropriate for their age, something that reflects our Canadian values and morals and culture and makes Canada stronger, or get out and we'll find somebody who will do that." But instead, we're retreating, Paul. So I'm not saying that the homeschooling is a bad movement, but it's not the most appropriate way to deal with what's going on, is it? I mean, what? We're paying
It's not
taxes,
undoing it.
Paul.
No. It's not undoing it, and it might endanger your child as well because they don't know what's going on with the other kids.
Yeah, and now you're
And
taking all the kids that are good and moral and getting a decent education, and you're putting them all over here in little closer. And then what happens to the rest of them? These are the kids, the vast majority of them, that are being brought up by these left-leaning liberal teachers and school boards, and they're going to grow up and play a bigger part in society even than the other ones, because the other ones are a minority. So where is the balance? Where's the influence anymore of shall we call it righteousness or morality in schools? If you're going to take all those kids out and homeschool them and keep them away from all the kids that are being misled, it's not a solution. It's not the best way of doing it.
No, I would love to be a part of reforming education. I would like to see kids graduating high school with apprenticeships. I would like all the trades to be available. If a child does really well at something, to enhance that, let them do it more and let them go into that study, have different things and different programs in different schools, and just move them around and utilize the child's skills instead of slowing them down. Like if a child does really well in class, they should be able to do 2-3 grades if they're capable. And if someone takes 3 years for one grade, don't punish them. A lot of our geniuses were terrible at school. So
Yes.
because they just didn't fit that mold, they didn't learn that way.
No.
So we really need a flexible system that introduces an elementary school that introduces trades, and we could push trades that we need. If we need more mechanics or carpenters, we can expose children to all these different options while they're young, because children are genius level when they're before they go to school, and they lose that when they finish school. It drops by like 2/3. They just
Children
go
learn so quickly, and
Yes.
one of the drawbacks of school that drove me around the bend there when I went to school, and I finished grade 13, and then I went on to college. But boy, it was just so boring and so slow. And then they teach you all day long. You go home and eat supper, and then they give you 2 hours homework at night. What is that? How about I can spend some time as a child with my family and my friends in the evening? What was all that homework about? And I'm glad they're waking up to that a little bit, but they're just robbing us of our youth by overshadowing everything we do. Well, can you go out and play? No, I got a project to do. No, I got this to do and that to do. And it was rough. But I'll tell you, when you talked earlier about what life was like when you were a kid, Paul, here's what I did. I'd get up Saturday morning, get up about 8 o'clock, maybe sometimes 7:30, depending on how many chores I had to do. We didn't live on a farm or anything, but Mom had expectations of me. And she said, you do this, you do that, you do that. And then, you know what? Here's a clincher. Then she says, then you can go out and do what you want. So I'd be out of the house by 10:30. You know what? I wouldn't be back until dark. And we didn't have cell phones. Mom had no idea what I was doing. But you know what? She had a sense that, hey, this kid's out playing soccer, and then they go out and play football, and then they play some baseball, and then they go down to the swamp and they play on the rafts and they catch some frogs. And then, you know what? He doesn't eat anything all day long. And then he comes home at night at 6, 7, 8 o'clock when it's dark. Where the heck were you all day? Oh, Mom, I was having so much fun. My new blue jeans are torn. My shirt's all dirty. I might even have a black eye. Who cares? It was fun. It was life. And I have such fond recollections of that. And now, you know what? If you don't lock your door, it's a whole different world. I don't even recognize Canada anymore from when I was a kid, Paul.
It's really gone downhill, and unfortunately, there's no one in office that is doing something about it or even talking about it. They're all in on it.
No, they're all in on it.
I mean, they're begging for an insurrection. I know they complained that Ottawa was an insurrection. That wasn't insurrection. Nobody stormed the building and took over. That's an insurrection. It's taking over. Nobody did that. So, you know, I hate how they manipulate people and they use tactics, you know, narcissistic tactics. They use projection all the time.
Yeah.
You know, they're the bad guys and they're trying to make the good guys the bad guys.
Yeah.
And they have the media wrapped around their fingers, so they're pulling, you know, holding the water for them.
So here's the thing:
as many PPC candidates as I can, because of how important it is and how we're really at a fulcrum point.
And my greatest aspiration for the election coming up is that people will vote for someone, Paul, not to get someone out, not against someone. Why are you voting Conservative? Oh, because the Liberals have to go. What kind of a reason is that to vote Conservative? You vote for someone. You find out who reflects your morality, your values, your beliefs, your dreams, and that's the person you vote for. Not, you don't use an election to vote again. That's an abuse of your voting privilege. And some of my closest friends are saying, "Walt, you're splitting the vote." And I say, you know what? I'm voting my conscience. I'm voting for my values, and that's the way you should be voting. And I have to say, Paul, the nagging question that I have in the back of my mind is if we would just get rid of this splitting the vote argument and see what happens if everybody were to make the radical change of voting for their values, because so many people are telling me, I like Max, I like the platform, but you guys don't have a chance. That's right. With people like you, if you're not going to vote for Max, but you love him and you love his platform, we don't have a chance if you're not going to vote for him. But I'm convinced that we could wind up with 12 members in the House this election, if not more, if people would be true to their values. And I even talked to, in Milton, there are a lot of people there from all over the world that have lived there and settled there, and one after another. Paul, as God is my witness, I'm telling you, I talk to them about the PPC. I flip the card over and I say, look there, we're not in favor of mass immigration. We want to put a moratorium on that. We're not against immigrants. We're against mass immigration. And Paul, we're not doing the immigrants any favors either. If we can't offer them a job, we don't offer them a hope of a good future. The food is out of reach and they'll never own a home. But welcome to Canada. Oh, really? Really? When I was a kid, my parents moved here from Holland with 4 children because do you remember it back after the war? Canada was the land of opportunity. And there's no reason why we can't still promote it as the land of opportunity, but not if we're going to go in the direction that we're going now.
Yeah. And people, I hope Doug Ford helped. A lot of people see that the Conservatives aren't conservatives. I mean, he's talking about, ripping the bottles out of the shelves that, are that's like a jealous girlfriend. It's not responsible. It's not a statesman-like. You
No,
don't pull the bottles out of the shelf like, that's just
no,
immature
yeah,
and unfit. He's unfit. He loved the Emergency Act. He loved the power trip. He made millions off of those little directional
really.
stickers that saved our lives. Because if we would have went the wrong way in the grocery store, everyone would have been dead. I mean, what
We've
about
been
the
trampled to
ridiculous
death.
goals? Oh
We'd
my
still be
God.
in the grocery store looking for the milk if we follow those directions.
I mean, they do need arrows at IKEA, or you'd never get out of there.
Well, it is remarkable the change, the about face that Doug Ford also has brought into the country. And there again, what happened there? What happened there? There's an agenda going on,
Yes.
and get on side, shut up, get on side, vote the party line. And Max says, no, we're not going there. He said, and what one thing that also swung me over to supporting Max more, because I checked this out. He said, if you will go back to my videos 5, even 10 years ago, you will
Yep.
find I'm still saying the same thing today
Yep.
that I
Yep.
said back then. And he
Which
said,
is
with the
fine.
other
Yep.
parties, they don't even have a platform until shortly before the election. They examine all the opinion polls. They find out, okay, what should we tell them this time? What should we promise them this?
Yep.
What's everybody talking about? Okay, let's make that our platform. It might get us more votes. That's not principled. That's
Yep.
not based on heart conviction about anything but your own power and your own office and your own pension. And Max says, no, I won't go that way. You want to know what my platform is? Here's the purple book. You can read it. I'm on Facebook, yeah, or on online, and you can read my platform there too. But he
Yep.
says you can go back 10 years and you can see my same platform there. And a lot of the things that he's saying are coming about. He was against mass immigration, and you know what? That he was against that the last election, and they called him what, a racist and
Oh yeah. Well, the
said,
conservatives did not want him to win, to be the
no.
leader of the party. And he probably wasn't safe in that situation. O'Toole, was it O'Toole that got it, or
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, looking back, he's always said the same thing, and I'm hoping people will just see, like Carney, what he did was pull the rug out from under Pierre with the carbon tax. Tax, he just destroyed his whole sell point. Okay, we'll take the tax. We'll get rid of the tax. There you go. Boom. Bye, Pierre. So tactically, this is a war party. And what he did was brilliant. But he's a liar. He works with liars. He's works for liars that have no loyalty to this country. And they're all about, I don't know if you've seen the 1991 Committee of 300 letter, but they basically talk about, getting rid of the white people in Europe and North America. It was a war against the white people. And then they were going to go to other races. They had a goal of 1 billion people on the planet. That's it. No more. And 500 million would be Japanese and Chinese, because they were regimented. They were, for decades to obey the government. So that's why they get to, 500 million. And our Georgia Guidestones was 500 million. That was for us, North America. So that was a tombstone for us. That was made for us. And when they destroyed it, that's when they launched COVID, which was their program. Now they have technology with Wi-Fi. They can see people through walls using the Wi-Fi. And AI can actually see where you are, what you're doing, how you're sitting, whether you're sitting or standing. So the technology has all been used for evil instead of good, like the water-powered cars. You think a PPC government would stand strong on allowing technologies to be used for good and end this weaponizing of all the good things that could happen to us in our life, like the car that can charge your car. With the
Your house,
PPC,
yeah.
protect these.
A car
I
that
just
can charge your house, yeah.
But PPC was the only party that would protect a libertarian, maybe, and independents are the only three choices. Libertarians will never be allowed. So People's Party is like the only way, and then we have independents as well, which is another option where they're not voting for the whip with the whip. Like in Ontario here, the NDP brought Bill 67, which is a critical race theory, which is destroying the minds of our children and teaching them to hate themselves. And it is an anti-white hate against white people, which goes with the Committee of 300. They want to get rid of white people. And I'm only part white, but I still find that offensive to have a war with anyone because of just their skin. I mean, that shows who they are, doesn't it?
Oh, isn't that the truth? And they've taken. I know it's an old truth now, but they've taken in our generation, in our lifetime, they've taken prayer out of the schools. They've taken Bible reading out of the schools, and they've taken Merry Christmas and replaced it with Happy Holidays. No more nativity scenes, even on Veterans Day. No more prayers in the name of Jesus. No, we don't want that anymore. And yet, all those fellows, so many of them died because these were the principles that they believed in. And I remember as a kid, I was the one who was asked to come to the principal's office and, Walt, would you mind saying a prayer over the whole school? And we shut down the whole school. There was an intercom system. That's how we began every day when I was a kid in junior school. And we opened up in prayer, and everybody stood. We sang "O Canada," and we sang "God Save the Queen." And then we had a prayer. And Walt, would you read a scripture verse for today? Sure. And then we all began our classes. And you take all that stuff away. Oh, well, there's a bias there toward the Christian faith. Yeah, but we were founded. Our country was founded on Judeo-Christian principles. So what's wrong with holding on to our heritage? You go to some of these other countries and you try talking about, the Bible or the name of Jesus and that sort of thing, and you'll be put in prison, if not executed. And so other countries are doing. I'm not saying we should do that, but to protect your roots and the things that made us the country that we are. No, that's not happening. So now they've taken all that away, and look where we are. Still in your generation and in my generation, Paul, look where having removed all of that has gotten us. It's so far from where we came from, all in one lifetime. And so we need to get back to some of these basics. Now they want to remove, right? They want to remove the tax-exempt status of a lot of Christian-based organizations, pro-life organizations. A lot of them are going to go down. They're just going to go bankrupt. There's a move against faith in general. Unless you're from another country and for some reason we're embracing all that. LGBTQ began as Gay Pride Day, and then Gay Pride Week, and now Gay Pride Month, and oh my gosh, so all these things, and yet look at what Christianity has given us. It's given us what? Schools, hospitals, crisis centers. Oh my gosh, it's done so much for our country. And many of the founding fathers, our Constitution reflects that. Their faith.
When I was a kid, I remember praying in school. There was prayer, and there was singing the national anthem. So we were in a whole different world.
And they weren't all Christians, Paul. But did any of the parents say, "Hey, I want my kid to stand out in the hallway while you read the Bible"? No, they didn't do that because there was a tolerance and an appreciation for your neighbor back then that just isn't there today. And they just it's a different country. I
It
don't
is.
know what the future is, Paul. If we keep going this way, where is that going to bring us? When you get a president or a leader that says, "Hey, make our country great again," and our Canadians first and Canada first, then you have a hope of some kind of future.
Yeah.
But if you don't give us something like that and just say, "Oh, more tolerance and more diversity and more equity and more inclusion," then you destroy your identity. And it would be like somebody coming to Paul, it would be like you saying, "Walter, I've got 20 friends here. There's been a fire in our house. Can you take 20 or 30 people and just put them in your house and look after them for a couple of years?" Look, Paul, I'm sorry, I can't do that. It'll destroy my family. It'll destroy our home. It'll destroy everything.
Yeah.
And I won't be doing them any favor because I can't meet all those needs anyway. I'll take one or two or three. If we stretch ourselves, maybe we can do that. But to say fill my house with 4 times, 5 times as many people, no, Paul. I'm not doing you a favor either by saying sure, bring them in.
Yeah, these people are absolutely godless. They wanted to remove God from the schools, and and now they've passed laws and that which I hope the PPC will rescind. Anti-hate laws of Islam. I've read the Quran. I mean, I don't have any problem with the Quran except where it says it's okay to beat your wife. I don't think that's appropriate. It's in there. It says in brackets lightly, like to beat her lightly, as if they're going to read the brackets. But nevertheless, I still respect the book, and I respect all of them. I've read the Gita, and Buddhism, the Bible, of course, but we do have they say inclusion, but it excludes white people, it excludes Christianity, it excludes straight people. LGBT does not have an H for heterosexual. They're excluding what God's plan of a procreation between a man and a woman. I mean, that is the fundamental of the reason why we're here, and if we stop doing that, we're going to just vanish from history. We're just going to disappear. So it is, I think, biblical times. We definitely in biblical times. I'm pretty sure. I mean, for all my studies point in that direction, but I don't think Canada has to fall. I think they want to implode us. Financially, they're paying more to these immigrants than they pay our disabled. They get
For the
more than
sake of some of your viewers, Paul, I've said this to people and they didn't realize this, but if you study Bible prophecy, ultimately, in the end days, the world is going to develop in 3 different areas. One is a world government.
Yep.
2 is a world religion. And
yeah.
3 is a world economic system. And it's all going to come under the leadership of someone that's referred to as the Antichrist. And if you can't see that happening now, we call it globalism. That's a fancy word for saying fulfillment of Bible prophecy. World economic, world religious, that's what it is. And a world political system. And that's where we're going. And that's what the agenda is. And you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. And we won't be happy. And God owns it all. And there's only so long that kind of a philosophy is going to last. But in the vanity and pride of our own minds, we think, oh yeah, if we can accomplish that, we'll live forever. You're not going to live forever. We're going to destroy one another. It's not meant to be. It's not moral. So let's just stop it. Vote PPC and let's just do the right thing.
Yes, I think this is our last election before they give us a date, 2030. And, the injection, a lot of people don't know, had a light in it. Did you know that they use the light of the firefly?
I did. I saw that.
Mark of the beast. It fulfills the mark of the beast because it can be scanned. Also in Greek, in Hebrew, Lucifer is light bearer, and a firefly is certainly a light bearer. We all have lights in us, but in the firefly is an example of seeing the light and seeing how it pulses. We don't see it in ourselves, but it is the only way that we can actually see what it looks like by looking at the firefly, how it pulses. It goes in and out, and that's how I define light. So when they inject a light inside of us, and that's why it had to be minus 50 degrees or whatever, a ridiculous freezing temperature to keep the cryosphere, to keep the light alive. And once they inject that light, the light of God inside of us, it goes out like a smoke, ascending forever and ever. I mean, they're fulfilling biblical, the end days, the mark of the beast, because it can be scanned when you have, whether or not you've had this luciferase in you. They can find out if you have it in you, so they can attach that to money, and then you can't buy or sell anything unless you get that light inside of you. And so they found a way to steal souls, as far as I can see.
Yeah.
Luckily,
Yeah.
I spoke to a lot of nurses, and they said that the vials weren't. They didn't fulfill the protocols. They weren't keeping it cold. So as soon as that happens, the lights get killed inside of the vials, and they're actually saved lives by screwing up. This is where medical error actually saves souls by allowing it to die. But
Remarkable to think. This is what I mean by this top-down government, that there's an agenda going on, and we promise you the world until we get into power, and then we'll tell you what to do. And where is the voice of the people? So when I'm running for Milton and Halton Hills, you know what? It's difficult to bring people into the realm of a lot of these discussions. But one thing that they all have a fear and a conviction about is that we are all being told what to do and how to do it. And that is not what government is for. They are elected by the people, and when they stop representing the concerns and the wills and the opinions of their constituency, then I think they're no longer eligible to hold office, and there needs to be another election until they adequately and properly and morally represent the people who've put them into power.
Mm-hmm. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show. Anybody out there know anyone from Milton East, Halton Hills South?
Yes.
Walter is your candidate for the People's Party of Canada. So please share with these people, anyone in this riding, because we want him to get a seat, because he will actually vote according to the best interests of his constituents.
Yes.
This is not a party whip system. He will work in the best interest of the region, and every region is different. So depending on where you live, your PPC candidate will vote according to your best interest, and you got to keep that in mind, and know that the Ford conservatives are no longer conservatives. The People's Party are the only conservatives that we have right now available.
Thank you, Paul.
So
thank you.
I thank you. Thank you for running and representing your constituents. And I hope to God you get a seat, and we can save our country before a 2030 deadline agenda happens. Any final words before we stop tonight?
Folks, please, I appeal to you. Vote your conscience. Don't vote against somebody. Vote for somebody. If you agree with Max, if you've taken the time to examine the platform and you think, wow, I like this, then vote for him and let him be a voice for you. One of the reasons I'm running is because I believe people are entitled to vote for someone who truly reflects what their convictions are, and who will represent them in more than just voice, but that in spirit as well. They will be well represented in Ottawa. You're entitled to that. You're Canadian. This is a democracy. You're entitled to that. And win or lose, I want to fulfill that purpose. It's Walter.Hofman, Hofman, just one F, at teamppc.ca. If you have any questions, and I want to say, if you want to make an e-transfer and help me with my campaign, then that would be so excellent. Thank you, Paul. What a fabulous show. And I'm so glad that I had the opportunity to join you. Much appreciated, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming on the show. And I wish you the best on the 28th. Thank you, everyone at home, for joining us on the Truth Table. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Truth Table. I'm Paul Everton, and I'm just making an announcement here. April 28th, my StreamYard account expires. And I know I don't ask for money, and I don't have any sponsors. I don't ask for any sponsors because the Truth Table was based on giving people information, the true meanings of words, symbols, all sorts of things. I'm going to do one on my biblical translations before the 28th, but I will keep streaming. But I'm not able to pay the. I'll show you. It's $431.88 to renew. Now, if I don't renew, the only thing that'll change is the quality of the screen. I won't have my logo anymore. It will go back to this again. So that's not so bad. So I'm putting it in God's hands because it doesn't matter. I still will be able to continue. The only other thing is the quality of the recordings won't be as good anymore either. But if there's more information that I feel needs to get out, I will. Luckily, my account will be wide open until the election is over. So I'll be able to get lots of shows in and candidates so the voters can meet these people. I will put my e-transfer down here somewhere. If you want to help, you're welcome to. I'm not going to ask for money, but if I reach that amount, I will. What I will do is during every show, I will post where I am at the target, if I reach the target or not. So I will be really transparent about any donations that do come in. And if I reach the target, I will renew or even get really close. Then I will cover the rest. And then I will continue to use my own logo and have be able to have as many more guests and that sort of thing. But I'll leave it in God's hands. And if it doesn't happen, the Truth Table is not necessarily going to end. It'll just be the free account, and that's okay. That's okay. That's why I put it in God's hands. Anyway, thank you. One thing I forgot on there. It looks like that's an old one, but there has been $50 donated, so I'm up to like $350. But like I said, it's in God's hands. I hate asking for money because this is a nonprofit podcast, and I want to keep it that way. It's just a lot of money. $400. It's a lot of money for me. And thank you for watching the show. Thank you, Walter Hofman, for being a guest, and thank you for running in the Milton, the Halton Hills South. I wish you all the best in the election on the 28th. I'm going to have Lisa Robinson, very excited, and who got herself on the ballot, and she's going to be on our show very soon, I hope. And until then, have a great night. Thanks for joining me on the Truth Table. I'm Paul Everton, and we'll see you again very soon.